Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Today, we're very welcoming to have Matt Salmon, who's a candidate for governor, visiting with us and to answer some of the questions and issues that I know concern the people out here in Yavapai County. But before we start, I want to thank Prescott News for this opportunity. Matt, welcome. Really, I'm glad you're up here.
Great to be here.
For those of people out there that don't know, I believe it's important for them to understand your service as a congressman. You were part of a select group of Republicans who pledged to follow term limits on that compact. Tell me about that and what your thought process was about the members that didn't follow that.
Well, when I first ran for Congress, it was during the Contract with America in '94. And one of the big items that we included in the Contract with America was term limits.
Right.
And I'd already been such a strong supporter of the idea of term limits that, when I was running, we were asked to sign a pledge. Will you abide by the, term limits that are being proposed? And that was done all over the country. There were literally dozens. I think it was probably close to 100 people that got elected that year that signed the pledge and said that they would abide by the term limits and then leave. But when it came actually time to pay up, there were 5 of us that actually kept our word and came home. I was the only one from Arizona.
I think that says a lot about you as a person. And I think that, having served in the legislature, your word's your bond. People won't deal with you if you lie to them. That's right, exactly. And you tell somebody you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're pretty much history.
You're done. Nobody will ever trust you again.
Exactly.
It's like my dad used to say, you can't be a little pregnant. It's that way with integrity. You can't have a little integrity.
Exactly.
You either got it or you don't.
Yeah, and I think that carries a lot of weight with me, and I think most of the people in Yavapai County, because people up here are pretty straight talkers, and they look for that honesty and truthfulness in a candidate.
Well, it's really important, Noel, because when we're on the campaign trail, every one of us have been lied to by a candidate before. They said, "Well, I'm going to do this, and this," and they get in office and they do something different. I was a state senator and a congressman, and I did exactly what I said I was going to do.
Right. Yes. Let's talk about some of the issues up here that are really hot button issues that the voters care a lot about. And of course, the first one that seems to be at the top of the list is illegal immigration. If you become governor of the state, how will you deal with illegal immigration? What can you do? Tell us what your thoughts are about this issue.
Well, my biggest idea is that we have the right and the responsibility to defend our own sovereign border and enforce our own state laws. Mm-hmm. And so what I would do, I would push the legislature to try to pass tougher trespass laws, maybe a no trespassing zone right there at the border. In Texas, they actually did 2 things. They created this idea of disaster areas. And if you commit crimes like trespass in the disaster areas, the penalties go way up. And then Governor Abbott declared all the areas where the illegal immigration is the greatest disaster areas.
Right.
We could do the same kind of thing, but I'm not running for king. I'm running to be governor, and that means that I need to work with the legislature to get that done, and that's my hope. And then when those people that are coming across illegally engage with our law enforcement folks, we would arrest them and incarcerate them. And you know as well as I do that the cartels are running everything at the border. And that will not be a profitable venture for them coming into Arizona. We'll stop that dead in its tracks.
What do you think about Title 42 being ended in May?
I think it's a big mistake. I think that when you've got the likes of Senator Kelly actually encouraging the president not to let it expire before they come up with a game plan, I think that's very, very telling. The fact is that if Title 42 does expire and the president lets it expire, we're going to see roughly double the numbers of people coming into the state of Arizona.
Why do you think
it'll be cataclysmic?
Why do you think this administration is so tone deaf to the concerns of people in the border states? Obviously, they know that it's a catastrophe down there with these numbers that we're dealing with. What is going on? What do you think their thought process, if they even have one, about the border?
Well, first of all, I don't even know if Joe Biden really is in charge of anything. It feels like it's Obama's 3rd term, to be honest with you. So many of the people around him are open borders kinds of folks. And I just think that they have this idea that the more people that they allow to come in illegally and then declare amnesty one day, that those people will all be dedicated Democrat voters, and they'll have them for here till eternity. I think that's what the thinking must be. I can't understand it beyond that.
Yeah, it's a huge mistake because our Hispanic citizens are rapidly turning to the Republican Party. 50% of Latino men now vote Republican.
And what's really fascinating is most of the Latino people I've been speaking with are just as against illegal immigration as
absolutely.
I am. They, most of them did it the right way.
Yeah.
And they don't like the idea of somebody cutting in line
for
and
sure.
doing it the wrong way any more than we do.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to another topic, which is a really hot button topic up here, and that's election integrity.
Right.
And if you become governor, what would you propose to deal with the issues that involve election integrity?
Well, first and foremost, I've been saying very loudly for the last several months that I believe Governor Ducey should have called a special session on election integrity so that the laws would be in place for this next election. Because as you know, having been a state legislator, anything that's passed in the session doesn't become law until 90 days after the session ends. But in a special session, that's different. And I put out a 10-point plan on election integrity. First and foremost, I believe that everybody that casts a ballot in the state should have to have a voter ID and prove that they're who they say they are. And the early ballots, there's no requirement for voter ID. That should change. And that's 92% of the people that voted in the last election did it by early ballot. So that's first and foremost. But second, I think that we need more teeth behind our ban on ballot harvesting. I think that the punishment needs to be greater. I know that Attorney General Brnovich is prosecuting at least two people that ballot harvested in San Luis County, Arizona. One of them's already copped a plea and is turning state's evidence on the second one. But the penalties are not that serious, and I think they need to be a lot more serious. So I think we need to make permanent the ban on ballot harvesting, voter ID for every ballot cast in Arizona. I believe we need to get back to precinct voting. And I also believe that we should pass a law at the state legislature, and I will sign it, that says that within the last 65 days, nobody can come in and change the terms of the election. What happened in the last election was a judge parachuted in and changed some of the terms of the election, extended the voter registration day by a couple weeks, which changed it dramatically, and then disallowed the poll workers from getting too close to even looking at the ballots because of COVID. That was a travesty. And so these are just a few of the things that I would do, but I put out a 10-point plan that's on my website. I think voter integrity is one of the most important things we face in this next election.
Let's talk about an area that I know you're really interested in, and you always have been, and that's education and critical race theory, things happening in our school, education in general. Why don't you talk to me and the audience about your thoughts on education?
Well, it's kind of funny because I was on the education committee in Congress in the U.S. House, and I told them, you don't want me on this committee. I don't believe we should have a federal Department of Education. Show me in the Constitution, where it exists.
It doesn't.
And so, I personally believe that was that education is the silver bullet for America's future and Arizona's future. Of course, we need to ban critical race theory. The idea that kids should be taught that they're racist because of their skin color is the stupidest ideas I've ever heard. And this idea of passing off pornography as sex education to second and third graders, it's crazy. But I'll go you one more. I think that it's incredibly important that we give every parent the ability to vote with their feet.
Exactly.
That they ought to be able to pick the school, whatever school, private, parochial, homeschool, charter school, and that the tax dollars follow the child. And only when we have real competition will people wake up, I think, and realize that they have the power to decide where their kids are going to go to school. And the school people are going to finally understand that the customers are the parents. And they better please the customers.
Okay, so charter schools are public schools, and they receive 90% of the funding that a regular public school student would receive. And I know from your past and your history, you do support charter schools. In fact,
I was one of the founders.
That's exactly right.
In fact, when we first passed the legislation, I was on that. Back in '93, and so we were one of the first states in the country to create charter schools, and I was one of the founders of that, and I strongly support it. but I also supported the voucher bill that back then. I really believe in educational choice. I think parents should be able to have maximum freedom.
empowerment scholarships up here, and 25% of the students in Arizona K-12 are eligible, but not all parents choose to take that.
Right.
But I supported empowerment scholarships, and I think it's a great way. And if you're in a failing school, you get your kid out of there and put him in a better school. And parental involvement's the key to this whole thing.
It's the best way for parents to be able to show, that they're in charge.
Right.
And we've got to put parents back in charge.
Okay, so now we have a statewide issue that I'm sure you're on top of, and that's the water issues that are happening in Arizona. And it affects us greatly up here in the Prescott Active Management area because we don't get CAP water.
Right.
So talk to me and the audience about your general thoughts on water issues, knowing that the 1981 Groundwater Management Act, Arizona had 2.5 million people.
Right.
Now, 20, 40 years later, we've got 7.5 million people. Water's critical. Tell us about that.
I think that's one of the reasons that when we look at the governor's race, that and many more, you need to have somebody at the helm that actually knows what they're doing. I've been working on this water stuff as a state legislator, as a congressman, and I've been living it up close and personal for a lot of years. And Arizona is right now at a very critical juncture. Right. We've been in a 20-year plus mega drought. And because of that, our water needs are exceeding our supply.
Right.
And so we have to come up with some new sources of water. We have to. And I know in the state address, Ducey talked about dedicating $1 billion for water, and then there's this talk about creating the state water authority. I know that ultimately we've got to find either through water retreatment at the municipalities and finding new sources of water, or this desal plan he's talking about at the Sea of Cortez, and then trading out Mexico's Colorado River water. All those are good ideas. It's going to have to be all hands on deck. And then at the Harquahala aquifer, it's full of water, but it's briny water. It's going to have to be treated. So we're going to have to build infrastructure.
Right.
So all of those things are going to have to be front and center. Also, we're going to have to, 72% of the water in the state is allocated to agriculture. And so we're going to have to find a lot more efficient ways of drip systems, of irrigating our crops. And that's going to take resources as well. But after all said and done, there is going to be a component of water conservation. There's no way to avoid it.
Huge issue, Matt, and thank you for talking to us about it. We're right now in fire season starting. We have fires up here cooking off right now in the county. Tell us your thoughts about, as governor, how you would deal with fire season in Arizona.
Well, first and foremost, it's all about forest health, as you know. And there were some critical mistakes that have been made in Arizona. Back when I was in the state legislature, we had a thriving timber industry, mostly in Coconino County, but the forest health was substantially better then. The environmentalist wackos chased the timber industry out, where we were actually making a far healthier forest, plus being able to make money off of the timber. I, as governor, would really like to do everything I can to get a timber industry back in Arizona, because I think it's incredibly important. But we also have to really focus on forest health. And it means that we have to thin out our forests. We have to make sure that that we're doing everything that we can. That also has a impact on the water too. The water
does, absolutely.
The watershed issues. When it gets all gunked up and the water drain off, doesn't go down into the aquifers, but it evaporates because it's caught up in the gunk. The forest health is one of the most important things that we face as a state, and I'm ready to hit that with everything that I got.
I want to give you a couple of minutes to just tell the audience what your thoughts are, and introduce your website, and just talk straight to our community.
Well, you bet. My name is Matt Salmon. I've been married to the same gal for 42 years. I got 4 kids and 9 grandkids. 8 of them are in the public schools here in Arizona. And I have a real vested interest in the future of this state. I care very deeply. I do not want to become like California. I think we need a strong-willed governor that's going to stand up to the federal government and stand up for Arizona's values. And I believe that I am that guy. I'm that person. And I'm asking for your support out there. My website is mattsalmonforaz.com. That's MattSalmonforaz.com. Please go take a look at it. If you're impressed with what you see and you support me, come on and volunteer to help us. We're doing phone banking. We're doing walks in neighborhoods. If you're interested in throwing some donations my way, I'd appreciate that too. But Noel, I really appreciate the opportunity to be
Matt,
here.
thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
a
in
lot.
to this interview. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you very much.
You.